Welcome. So here I will just show you quickly some small examples, including the structure of Italian civil protection. The first is to remind you that when we talk about disaster mitigation and spatial planning, we have to keep in mind that we are talking about actors in planning mitigation. So when we talk about measure, we talk about plans, we talk about cultural heritage, we talk about risk management, emergency management, and daily life management. We talk about three different levels of targets. One is the institutional one, government bodies that are affected or can be affected or they are concerning of risk of cultural heritage, historical heritage, and so on. And there are the so-called stakeholders. The stakeholders is a sort of overall meaning that includes everybody, that can be a sort of actor in the scene of the disaster and planning mitigations. And there are the society. The society can be composed by individuals or targets or association, NGOs, NPOs, and so on. So there are three main components of the actors that have to be involved in any action, in any plan, in any study, and have to be under focus and in the lens of the planners. Some examples. The first one is a quote that is excerpt from UNESCO, and is the so-called Culture for Sustainable Urban Development Initiatives, and is telling us that among the 2030 agendas, 17 Sustainable Development Goals on sustainable cities makes it clear that culture has an essential role to play in realizing sustainable urban development, particularly through strengthened efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. Building on Sustainable Development Goals 11, the Culture for Sustainable Urban Development Initiative brings together national and local governments, university and research centers, NGOs and civil societies, actors from across the globe around the main lines of action. As this is the last sentence is underline what I previously said, that is about the actors that are involved in this planning, in this initiative, in this action, that is said brings together national and local governments, university, research centers, NGOs and civil society actors from across the globe, a main line of action. It means that everything is linked. It's difficult to consider just Italian actors without the international one, just the Polish actor without the international one, and especially for us as European, without at least the European level. There are some data, some examples that you can check, and are personally I guided as a research in the last 20 years. And in Diversity Lab, we work a lot about prevention of risk, mitigation of risk, communication on environmental risk. And we work in collaboration with national, international research institutions from a different part of the world. What does it mean? That all our research projects cannot be stand-alone. They cannot be a standalone project without our partner in research. So talking about, and this is the third example, is the case of National Service of Civil Protection. Italian Civil Protection is a national body that has the listed duties, as the duty to try to forecast, to prevent, to rescue, and to give the first aid, then the assistance, and proceed and exceed the emergency. The planning competences of the civil protection are the following. So at the national level, they have the duty to give guideline, to promote, to coordinate the so-called Type C emergency management that national rescue plans, national emergency plans. At the regional level, there is the same task, let's say, but is what is called type B of emergency management. That means the level of the management that is at the regional level. And also there is the county emergency plan that is, let's say, a territory that is bigger than the municipality level. And there is the municipality or inter-municipality emergency plans. So that is the level of competences, and is, as you can see here, is the program goes from the emergency planning, in regional intervention, to the operational unit that will lead to guide and to work on the emergency. The effect or the measures that we have to take into consideration when we think about disaster here in Italy and the combination of the different level of civil protection, they cannot be efficient. They cannot have results if on the side of planning we do not find a way how to implement such kind of a measure like land use policies and their enforcement, master plan and the land use ordinances, the community participation and the cooperation of different level of governance. Why we have to plan the emergency? Because we need to be ready, to be prepared during the peacetime in order to face the emergency since when it happened. If you remember on the graph that we use in the second part of the lectures, this lecture, there was a pre, during, and after. So to be ready in before in order to face the during. To optimize the resources of management, support and facilitate external help coming from regional and national institutions. And how we can face the emergency, because previously we have to think how to use visualization, how to use efficient tool of communication, how to inform properly everybody. It doesn't mean only the population, it means also the actors that are involved, like volunteers and so on. And in order to be flexible and to be available as much as possible. Also, we can guarantee coordination of the different actions, and this made through, of course, hierarchical process, a cascade process of decision, but it's keep under control during the emergency, the operations. Again, especially the Italian civil protection is particularly keen and expert in using and adapt languages among all the actors that are involved in the city management. You know that Italy is a country with a well-known risk and vulnerability to different hazards. And the history started thousands of years ago, probably. But in the last decades, what we have to face is the problem related with some urban phenomenon. For instance, like urban sprawl, or someone even called urban sprinkle. But nevertheless is, let's say, not controlled land use, not controlled related with land use, and no control in what could happen if something occurred in that area. So if we look to the cases in the Italian history, what we find is that the successful cases were only when we have sort of equilibrium between the spatial planning, the risk assessment, and the multi-level governance. In these cases, we had a successful reconstruction. We had, let's say, efficient, also according with some lack of funding and money, but we have a way to reconstruct. And especially not only to reconstruct, but how we protect our cultural heritage. So in some cases, talking from Friuli case to L'Aquila case, we find a way how to protect the historical heritage in order to be not only preserved, but to be a symbol of the rebirth of our cities. Thank you.